Can you hear me? All right, I'll get going. Hi there, I'm Joel Prager. I was one of two visual effects supervisors, one of two additional visual effects supervisors who worked on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 alongside our overall supervisor, Ged Wright. I'd like to talk to you today about how Blunda was a core part of our pipeline we used Blender for our in-house team's work, focusing on Previs, postviz, and final shots. So for those of you who haven't seen Sonic 3 or don't know what it is, here's the trailer.
Sonic, you finally found your family.
Try to keep up.
I know it hasn't always been easy, but you didn't change who you are in here.
Yeah, in my lungs.
Or your heart.
There's been a high-level security breach. And we need Team Sonic's immediate assistance. Project Shadow is far beyond anything we've ever encountered.
Shadow's story began a lot like your Sonic. But where you found family and friends, Shadow found only pain and loss.
All right, we got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Start with a giant fireball?
I love it. Let's start with a giant fireball.
He is much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here.
You're a colorful bunch.
We don't want to fight you.
Actually, Sonic, I would like to fight.
No, no! My turn. Can we just talk about this? He's too powerful. Sonic! I can't believe I'm saying this, but we need you-know-who.
This is a bad idea.
When has that ever stopped me?
Doctor!
We have visitors.
This is sad, Robotnik. Even for you.
We need your help.
On one condition. Let's do this! If I can't rule the world, I might as well save it!
I need room. But, sir, I don't have the proper materials.
Found some.
When we're done, there won't be anything left.
Hey, no cheat code! What did you do?
What I had to.
Welcome home, my boy.
It's impossible.
Is it?
It couldn't be.
Couldn't it? Are you? In the saggy flesh.
Who am I? I have worked in visual effects for around 20 years. I started at Double Negative and wore many hats, including match-move supervisor, lighter, look dev, sequence supervisor, and eventually CG supervisor. And then since then, I've worked on the Sonic franchise, since Sonic 1, going through Sonic 2, doing the Knuckles TV series, and then finally Sonic 3. And a large part of my job has been to supervise the in-house team. So what is an in-house team? I'm guessing most of you are aware of the normal VFX production process on a movie where we'll have a studio will farm out work to various different visual effects companies, and they'll go away, do the work, and then the work will come back to the director, they'll review it, and there's a big feedback loop, etc., etc. In recent years, in-house teams have started playing a bigger part in that. So an in-house team is a team that works directly for the studio, works with the production. We're on set, we work through pre-production, we work through the shoot, we work through post-production. But they're much smaller teams. They don't have R&D and big development teams. We have to be quick and nimble and produce a lot of work in a very short space of time with very little crew. But the benefit of having an in-house team is that we can work really closely with the directors, which gives them a bit more opportunity to play around with shots, play around in the cut a little bit more. We close that feedback loop, so we're in the same office as the director and the editor, and he's popping by and looking over our shoulders while we work. So it bridges the gap between visual effects and filmmakers. So there's a backstory to this, which I felt like I should explain a little bit. When we started on Sonic 1, it was just, I had been asked to come on as a data wrangler, and Ged had said that he wanted me to do a few post-viz shots on the side while I was not on set. So it started with me and 2 animators in a room above the stages, just working. We didn't have a system, we didn't have a setup. It was just me, 2 animators and a bunch of computers, and we would grab the plates off editorial. I would track them, pass the Maya files onto the animators, and then comp them and send them back to editorial. And so we had this really fast process where we were able to add Sonic into a shot and put it back into the edit almost the same day as it had been shot. I think we had agreed to do 25 shots, and then apparently there was a meeting that I wasn't in at some point, and they had reviewed all of our work in the edit, and someone had said, "So you're going to do the whole movie, right?" And when everyone came out of this meeting, they were all surprisingly nice to me, and I didn't quite understand why. And then somebody explained that we were now doing 1,400 shots. So it was evident that we needed some kind of system for this. I wrote a very quick script that made it a little bit automatic, but it was still play blasts. So fast forward to Sonic 2, Ged and I thought that we should be doing something a little bit prettier. The play blasts were okay, but they didn't have shadows, effects, lighting, motion blur. And so we realized we needed something fast to get us into to put these in. We needed something that would render quickly so that we could get this stuff in a similar way that we had worked with the play blasts on Sonic 1. So we went about, during the pandemic, which was just before Sonic 2 started, we went around looking for software that could render fast, and at the time, everyone was looking at Unreal. Unreal was the new kid on the block. It was the real-time render, and there were a lot of Previs companies that were talking about Unreal and starting to offer it as a service. So I had been looking into Unreal and I'm going to have to apologize to Epic at some point for this illustration, but I couldn't resist. I had been looking at Unreal, and I had gone pretty far down the path. And then one day, Ged messaged me very excited and showed me Blender 2.8 and Eevee. And I had already gone quite far down the path with Unreal, trying to get it pipelined. And so I was a little reluctant to pick up a new piece of software. You know, the pre-production was about to get going, so we were kind of up against it. So, but Ged kept sending me images of fancy renders that he'd done on his laptop, and that had rendered in a couple of seconds, and it became something I couldn't ignore anymore. So I picked up Blender and had a look at it, and I think within a week I was writing a pipeline in Blender and had completely switched over. Yeah, Unreal was great, but pipelining it at the time was very tricky. It was brand new, and it didn't have a Python API. It didn't deal with the Alembics very well, and it didn't render out AOVs. So trying to get Blender, on the other hand, was a fully fledged DCC. It had a lovely Python API. It had the ability to run it in the background, which when writing tools for a pipeline is extremely useful. And of course it had Eevee. So we did a bunch of benchmark tests with Blender and realized that even though it wasn't a real-time renderer, we were able to get most of what we needed to render in between 1 and 4 seconds a frame. And we just decided that we could live with that as we could live with animators waiting maybe a minute or 5 minutes at worst for their submissions to go through. That's what coffee breaks are for. And so our pipeline was born. And for some reason, I called it Blunda. I did not plan on being up on a stage having to explain to people why I called it Blunda. But it stands for Blender, Unreal, and Maya. And actually, I never finished the Unreal part of it because we ended up having everything we needed with Blender. So the work. By this time, by Sonic 3, we were, a pretty well-oiled machine. We had gotten cocky, and we had agreed to take on the previs of the entire movie, postviz of the entire movie, building a percentage of the assets that we would then distribute out to all the vendors, and they would take over any finishing of that work. We were also building the character models in-house, and we had a company that was doing, a company called Red 9 that was doing the rigs. And then we would send the character models and the rigs out to all the vendors, and they would animate on the same rig that we were working on. And then we also decided to take on a portion of the final shot work. So other than the groom, which was initially done in Houdini because it needed to go out to all the vendors, everything else that the in-house team was done in Blender. So just to put it into perspective, we had 5 build team artists. Someone chuckling over there who knows exactly what that means. 15 animation artists, 15 compers, 6 lighting artists, and 2 effects artists. One was a Blender artist and one was a Houdini artist. Most of our team did not know how to use Blender. So on top of having a small team, we had to train everyone up. So Gavin Whelan, our modeling supervisor, would put together these classes every morning and train all the artists up, and within a matter of weeks, they had picked it up, and it was a pretty well-oiled machine within a couple of months. So we did, in total, 860 Previs shots, 1,671 postviz shots, and 278 feature shots, with an additional 55 shots for marketing, for adverts, etc., etc. And we did that all with the team that I just laid out to you. So we had a lot of work to do, a very small team to do it, and for the feature shots, we had about, I think, 4 or 5 months to do it all. So what is this pipeline? So the pipeline actually starts in Maya. This is for a couple of reasons. One, because as an in-house team, you want your work to be as useful as possible for all the vendors who, so that you can send them files and they can pick up the work that we've done. And then the other reason is, sadly, it's still easier to find animators who are trained in Maya than it is to find animators in Blender. Hopefully that changes in the future, because Blender's got some very cool animation tools that we would love to use. Anyway, so the artist starts in Maya. This is the UI to the right that they would use. They do all their animation work, animate their camera, animate the character, and then they push that little green button, and that green button will cache out an alembic camera, animated caches, and a manifest file, which contains information about the shot, so frame range, what plate might be used, etc., etc., etc. Once it's done all this caching, in the background it runs Blender and it opens a Blender template. And what I mean by a Blender template is it's a Blender file that may contain lighting or environment, what else? Any sort of environmental animation or atmosphere, anything like that. It opens that file and then it brings in the camera, the caches, the manifest, and reads all the manifest file, and then kicks off an Eevee render. Once the Eevee render is done within a couple of minutes, it runs Nuke, it comps everything, and out comes a QuickTime at the other end. So we have this workflow where there are no lighters or compers involved in producing something that can then go to editorial. And it's all sort of managed by the animator themselves, and then they can review the QuickTime and decide whether they want to submit it to Shotgun or not. So here's a couple of examples of what our previs would look like. So it's already a pretty high quality render for previs. And normally everyone says previs is a throwaway work, but because this is going through a DCC the same way it would if it was being rendered, it ends up becoming layout version 1. Here's some postviz just to give you an idea of what that will look like. Again, all automatic, so the plate will get pulled in automatically. And it's things like this fire in the bottom right-hand corner that is super helpful to be able to do within Blender I don't know how you would do that in Maya for in a procedural way. Cool, so that's previz, postviz animation. With final lighting, we had a system that we called multi-shot. It works off the same concept of a template file in Blender, but we had 300 shots that we needed to render and 6 artists. So we needed all those artists to be able to render a hell of a lot of shots. So what multi-shot allowed us to do was publish a lighting template for either a shot or a sequence or a group of shots, and then kick all those renders off to the farm at the touch of a button. Blender's collections came in super helpful for this because part of our lighting template, they allowed us to set up our lighting templates in a procedural way. I will show you some of the lighting work shortly. So the fur, I can't talk about Sonic the Hedgehog without talking about the fur. So the original groom, as I said, was done in Houdini. And so one of the challenges that we had was to take the Houdini groom and convert it into something that we could render in Blender. We went through various different attempts at that. But what we realized was that we could grab the guide curves from Houdini, bring them straight into Blender, and we had a custom geometry node setup that would then stick the fur to the surface. And that, because it was a geometry node setup, it also allowed us to do things like add noise to it, add wind, add lag. And so it actually ended up being a super light setup for us in Blender, where it was a much heavier setup for people in other pieces of software. And yeah, because it was geometry nodes, we didn't actually have to simulate the dense fur. We were simulating the guide curves, which is a super sparse set of curves. Anyway, we were able to achieve an almost one-to-one match with the Houdini groom. And I've just picked this shot because I think the fur looks particularly pretty in this shot, all rendered in Blender. I just wanted to talk very briefly about the add-ons in the Blender community because for a small in-house team, having a library of add-ons, is it Blender Market or Superhive now? But having those resources for a small team like us was super helpful to be able to just grab, things like effects, fire, smoke setups, all of that kind of stuff. Really, really awesome to be able to grab that. In fact, the first version of Sonic's Energy was an add-on that I had bought from somebody called Cartesian Caramel, who some of you might know. Yeah, he rocks. In fact, we ended up hiring him, and he was the one who set up our fur geometry node setup, and he also then developed his Energy add-on even further. And what we ended up with was a really awesome procedural energy setup that dealt with trails, that dealt with them firing up their energy. So yeah, shout out to Cartesian Caramel. I have to give Cycles some props because it's such a great renderer. I've worked with a lot of renderers over the years, but I've never worked with one where I have never had a frame fail for me on the farm. So not only is it stable, it looks great, it's a lot less noisy than other renderers that I've used, but it also it's super fast. So, yes, Cycles rocks. I think I'm probably running out of time, so I will leave you with this, with a little montage of work that I thought that I'm really happy with. All of this work is entirely rendered in Blender and rendered by our in-house team. Well, of course. You see, let's try that again. Oh, no. All right, well, the finale is not going to work. I don't know why that's happening. We'll put it on the website. I'm not here to gripe at Blender, but I was told to put up a wish list of things that I would love to have. These are all just really simple things, but things that are necessary for a visual effects pipeline. I'm sure some of you have seen the threads. Anyway, but if I could have everything on this list, I would be a very happy man. Proper overscan for rendering support, because we need overscan as a percentage. I'm sure there's nods over here, so I'm sure I'm not the only one. Read Alembic and USD custom properties that are animated. This is especially for something like Blunda, which is sending a lot of information from Maya. Having animated Alembic and USD properties would be a lifesaver for me. Animated focal length from Alembic cameras. I'm sure everyone's aware of, well, a lot of people are aware of the ongoing discussion about that. And native PySide and Qt support, because all visual effects tools, or a large portion of visual effects tools, are written in Qt. So we would love that. Thank you.